If your car has been stumbling lately, the throttle response feels weak, or your fuel consumption has mysteriously increased, the problem might be coming from a very simple part, the MAF sensor. But don't panic, because by the end of this video, I'm going to explain 2 easy tests and a temporary fix you can try yourself at home. This means there are steps you can take before rushing off to the mechanic. In this guide, I will walk you through how to recognize the signs of a failing MAF sensor, how it affects your engine's behavior, and how you can take action before it costs you serious money. If you're interested in cars, enjoy solving problems on your own, and like to avoid unnecessary expenses, this is the right channel for you. So please, give this video a thumbs up, write about any strange symptoms your own car is having in the comments, and of course, subscribe for more videos like this. If you're ready, let's get started. What is a MAF sensor, and what happens when it fails? First, let's get to know this component. The MAF, or mass airflow sensor, measures the volume of air entering the engine. You can think of it as a device that measures the engine's breathing. The vehicle's computer, or ECU, uses the data from this sensor to decide the correct amount of fuel to inject. If this balance is right, the engine runs smoothly, fuel consumption stays low, and the exhaust is clean. However, when the MAF sensor goes bad, it sends incorrect information to the ECU. As a result, the engine either gets flooded with too much fuel or struggles with too little. Either way, you're going to have problems. When a MAF sensor fails, you might face issues like the car feeling like it won't accelerate properly, difficulty speeding up, an unstable idle, the vehicle stalling, a noticeable increase in fuel use, black smoke coming from the exhaust, or the check engine light turning on. It's a small part, but it plays a key role in how the engine runs. Many drivers don't understand what the problem is when this sensor fails, so they either start replacing parts randomly or end up with huge, unnecessary repair bills. That's why we're going to go step by step, starting with the 6 clearest symptoms of a failing MAF sensor. With these signs, you'll be able to easily identify the problem with your vehicle. Symptom 1. Engine misfiring and running rough. You've started your car and hit the gas, but the engine seems to hesitate for a moment, as if it's pausing before catching up. This issue often becomes more obvious during gear shifts or when you apply light throttle. The reason for this is typically a disruption in the air-fuel mixture. When the MAF sensor can't send correct data, the ECU injects the wrong amount of fuel. Consequently, the combustion inside the engine doesn't happen properly, which leads to misfires, shaking, and a loss of performance. Here are some practical checks. While the engine is running, try unplugging the sensor's electrical connector. If the engine sound smooths out a bit, the sensor is likely faulty. You can also try cleaning it with a dedicated MAF sensor cleaning spray, as sometimes it's just dirty. Also, take a look at your air filter. If it's clogged, the engine can't get enough air, which also ruins the combustion balance. Symptom 2. Fluctuating idle and stalling. Is your car running, but the RPM needle on your tachometer is moving up and down on its own? It may seem like the engine is struggling to maintain a steady speed while you're stopped. An idle that is unstable, dropping and rising, or a car that stalls for no reason at all can be a clear sign that the MAF sensor is not working correctly. Because the MAF sensor cannot accurately measure the air entering the engine, the ECU struggles to maintain the proper mixture. At low RPMs, such as when idling, this imbalance becomes even more noticeable. The result is a fluctuating idle, shaking, or even the engine cutting out while you're stopped. For a practical check, unplug the MAF sensor's connector while the engine is running. If the RPM suddenly becomes steady, the sensor is likely having trouble sending data. You should also check the vacuum hoses. Even a tiny air leak can confuse the sensor. Before you try to clean the sensor, always shut off the engine and make sure it is completely dry before starting the car again. Symptom 3. A delay in throttle response and difficulty accelerating. Do you press the gas pedal but the car doesn't react right away?
If it feels like there's a lag before the vehicle starts to pick up speed, this is a common symptom. This issue is most apparent when you need to accelerate suddenly, like when overtaking another car, which can be frustrating and compromise your safety. The reason for this is usually that when the MAF sensor malfunctions, the engine doesn't receive the right amount of fuel at the right time. The ECU doesn't get complete information about how much air is coming in, so it sends the fuel late, which slows down the throttle response. For a practical check, start the car, and after the engine has warmed up, take it for a short drive. If you notice a delayed response, the sensor needs to be inspected. You can try unplugging the MAF sensor connector and plugging it back in. If it's a poor connection, this might temporarily solve it. If you have a cleaning spray, try using it to remove any dust or oil from inside the sensor. If the car's acceleration responds more quickly after these steps, the problem is most likely with the MAF sensor. Symptom 4. A significant increase in fuel consumption. Have you been filling up your tank more often lately? Does it feel like your fuel is disappearing like water, even though you're driving the same routes in the same way? This is one of the most widespread symptoms of a MAF sensor failure. When the sensor isn't working correctly, the ECU compensates by sending more fuel than necessary, causing your vehicle to run on what's called a rich mixture. This not only reduces performance, but also drastically increases fuel consumption. For example, a car that normally uses 7 liters per 100 kilometers could see its consumption jump to 10 or even 11 liters with a faulty MAF sensor, which means a significant amount of extra money spent on fuel. For a practical check, unplug the connector and go for a short test drive. If you notice a drop in consumption, the sensor is almost certainly acting up. Check the air filter. If it's very dirty, it can mislead the sensor. Cleaning the sensor with a spray can often correct the fuel mixture and bring consumption back to normal. Remember, an increase in fuel consumption isn't always obvious at a glance, but you will definitely feel it in your wallet. Symptom 5. Black smoke coming from the exhaust. Are you seeing puffs of black smoke from your car's exhaust? If you notice a soot-like cloud clouding your rear-view mirror, especially when going uphill or accelerating hard, this is a sign that your engine is burning too much fuel and the air-fuel balance is completely off. The reason for this condition is that the MAF sensor is sending false information to the ECU, telling it that very little air is entering the engine. In response, the ECU commands a much larger injection of fuel. The result is a rich mixture, and the unburnt fuel exits the exhaust as black soot. This excess fuel, incomplete combustion, and black smoke aren't just a visual problem. This condition can damage your catalytic converter and clog the exhaust system. Your emission levels will rise, causing you to fail inspections, and yes, the resulting repair bill can become incredibly expensive. As a practical check, look at your exhaust pipe. If you see a buildup of soot, be cautious. Before cleaning the MAF sensor, try unplugging it and going for a test drive. If the smoke is reduced, your suspicion is correct. In this situation, cleaning might not be enough. You should consider replacing the sensor. Acting quickly when you notice this symptom can save you from a huge expense in the long run. Symptom 6. The check engine light comes on. Has the yellow engine symbol lit up on your dashboard? Don't panic immediately, but let's look at why this light might have turned on. When the MAF sensor is faulty, the engine's computer detects a serious inconsistency in the air-fuel mixture and stores this situation as an error code in its memory. In some cars, this will trigger the light instantly, while in others, it might appear after a few days. You can identify the issue by scanning for potential fault codes with an OBD2 device. These codes include P0100 for a MAF sensor circuit malfunction, P0101 for a signal that is out of the sensor's expected range, P0102 for a low signal level, and P0103 for a high signal level. If one of these codes appears, the MAF sensor is very likely the problem. For a practical check, if you have an OBD2 device, read the fault codes. Don't try to interpret them without searching for their meaning online. If the light comes back on even after you clear the codes, The sensor is genuinely faulty. If the code is cleared after cleaning and does not return, the problem may be solved. Remember, the check engine light doesn't always point to the sensor, but if these specific codes are present, don't replace other parts before checking the MAF sensor. Here are 2 practical tests you can perform at home. First is the unplug test. Start your vehicle and let it idle. Then carefully disconnect the MAF sensor's electrical plug. If the engine immediately stalls or the shaking gets worse, the sensor is likely working to some degree. However, if the engine continues to run exactly as it was, the sensor is probably not sending any data at all. This method is the simplest and most risk-free way to see if the sensor is completely non-functional. The second is the tap test.